Hey peeps, it's Tripl-L, and the time is finally here. I'm here to bring you a Bleach related video. Bleach chapter 686, the final chapter, Death and Strawberry. Guys, we're just going to do impressions and ending thoughts. This is the first time I'm actually talking about an ending of a series on this channel. I'm just going to tell you from now, because it's going to be ending thoughts, I am definitely going to just lash into Bleach. Because, listen, just because this series is ending and just because it's a generally sad time for fans doesn't mean I'm gonna forget my overall opinion of how I went into this series. And I do want to just say I'll get into a bit of a rant mode when I start talking about it, but I do want to say, like, I very much do love Bleach. Bleach was a fun series, and a lot of times when people had things to complain about it, I was fine with it. I was just having fun. There were weeks that Bleach was really the chapter I was looking forward to, especially whenever it was anything involving Mayuri, or anything involving the flashbacks, or anything involving the fathers. Those weeks really made it for me. Or any week involving Urahara. Really, like, the interesting characters, when they took the stage, they really took the stage. And I have a lot of positive feelings about Bleach. It's just ever since I started making YouTube videos, it's been easier to talk about the things that annoy me. I think I just have fun talking about it, because it's fun to see how a series can inspire emotion in you, whether it's happy emotion or slightly annoyed, miffed emotion. Now, this is the ending, and I do want to put one thing out there. There are a lot of things in Bleach that are going to go unanswered. There's even threads on different forums dedicated to the amount of things we will never know unless a data book comes out. And I'm not going to blame Kubo for that. Yes, Kubo has some of the fault because his pacing is horrid, but it's really the nature of a cancellation. That's just it's just the issue. It's just the nature of the thing. If anything, there was one thing in this chapter. There was one group of characters who were not included in these final two chapters, which I felt was very, very stupid and very disingenuous. But that we will talk about that when we get there. Before I really get into this video and before I really start talking about final thoughts, I do want to say that I think this was the best ending for Ichigo and his friends. Mind you, I'm not saying that this was the best ending for Bleach as a series, but I think this was the ending that Ichigo and his circle in particular deserved. And for that, I am happy with this chapter. I am actually really happy with this chapter. I don't care that there are things that I'm never going to find out. Okay? Because that's just the way the world works. That's just how cancellation works. But maybe a data book. Regardless, I don't care about that. This chapter, if it was its own standalone thing, if we had one more chapter and I was just rating this chapter by itself, I was really touched by seeing the interactions of Ichigo's family and his friends, and Rukia's family. So in that regard, you know, it's a good note to send Ichigo on. And how could you not be happy at that? Peace after a lot of fighting and struggles is a good thing. And just seeing that kind of happiness in Bleach, it's different than when Naruto ended. This one felt, I think, a bit more genuine, or this one felt nicer. I think mostly because Ichigo in particular was always a very mature character. Like, the characters in Bleach were always very mature. Way more mature than the ones in Naruto, I feel. So this kind of ending for them is really great. And I am sure that Ichigo does not have the problems that Naruto has as a father. Because Ichigo is a different character and he stands on his own. And so let's just talk about this chapter before I start going into the final thoughts and ranting about it. I think there are a few interesting elements. Obviously, it's cool to see the kids. It's cool to see Rukia and Renji got together. And that's good because Renji had that whole moment dedicated to him in one of the past chapters where he was thanking Ichigo for bringing Rukia and him back together. Having that moment and this moment is good. If we had not gotten that Renji moment in those past chapters, this would have felt like crazy. But because we had that kind of pretense before we went into this chapter, I very much respect Kubo for that. That was good, and it's adorable to see Rukia in the color spread. I know a lot of people like Ichigo Rukia, but I think this was the better way because Renji had way more history with her, and I think Ichigo has a special place in her heart regardless, so I'm totally okay with this. I was a bit more concerned that ghosts can have babies, because I'm not sure if that's how it worked, because something about that just seems funny, but they must be able to. But I remember that people that come into the Soul Society from outside, they go to the districts and they make surrogate families, kind of. Yeah, you know what? Let's ignore that. Let's ignore that. It's probably justified. It's probably okay. Anyway, the kids are cute. Ichigo's kid, whose name I forget, Kurosaki Ichikai, whatever, him. It's curious, but I think he absorbed what remained of Juhabok's power. That's weird. That kid just became a nuke. Like, what the heck, man? But way to go, Kubo. Way to like tie that up. I do think the transition with the Juhabok stuff happening in Soul Society and transitioning into Aizen and the flashback was great. I think that shoehorning some kind of nobler motive into Juhabok does a disservice to his character, talking about a world without fear. Look, man, it's just, I think I would have been happier with him going down as a straight up villain, just wanting to do stuff for whatever reason. Because we didn't get the backstory with Bok and the Soul King, that world without fear just feels a bit shallow to me. And that, I get this, that one's on Kubo. That one is on Kubo. Now, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, we saw Soifong. I mean, yes, this is something I registered in my mind that I wanted to talk about in a bit. My voice is breaking already. Let me just clear other things out of the way. I think it's adorable having all the friends back together on the couch, checking things out. And remember when we were told Ichigo might not be able to come back to the real world? This was something I was kind of ready for when Bok did certain actions. And this is why it kind of, I feel this was a disservice to Bok in particular. Or Yuwak, however you want to pronounce his name. Because Yuwak took away a lot of Ichigo's power. He made it easy for Ichigo to resume a peaceful life in the human world. And that's why a lot of Yuwak's actions don't fully make sense. He was very merciful towards Ichigo. He wasn't merciful towards the people that took his power, like the Quincy. But I think that's just because he had them characterized as a different thing in his mind. But in Yuwak taking away so much of Ichigo's power, he pretty much reset Ichigo to like human world standards. And that was one thing that really annoyed me with Ichigo's power development, because it was being reduced to nothing. He got it and it was taken away. But I feel like Yuwak, because he was such a dubious character, he might have been doing that out of some kind of justification. But of course, we might not know. And in terms of dubious characters, we have Aizen. And Aizen's speech throughout the whole 1,000 year blood war, I really do think Aizen had some amount of morals and he had some amount of a logic to his actions. Because do you remember very early on when Kyoraku went down to grab Aizen, how he sounded kind of sad that they thought that he would actually try to kill Kyoraku. The Central would try to kill Kyoraku. It's a very interesting thing having Aizen and Bok, and just their natures in general are not the most clear, and I think having this ending is unfortunate. I even think in Aizen's monologue for this particular chapter, it sounds like Aizen can't die. It sounds like he's not afraid of dying, because he's talking about the power to like keep going forward in the face of death, and that's courage. And the way he looks, it really makes it seem as if Aizen is an existence that just cannot die. And that's, again, another very interesting thing to consider when it came to the Soul King. Okay, moving on. And now we need to, and when we're talking about dubious characters, we need to talk about the king of dubious characters, Urahara. Okay, guys, he's not there. What can we assume? Well, we saw Soifong in this chapter. She's alive. Most likely Yoruichi's alive. Because let's face it, if Yoruichi died, Soifong would have followed her to the grave. She would have just killed herself right there, man. Do you think, consider it, do you really think she wouldn't? Do you really think she wouldn't kill herself if Yoruichi died? But yeah, that's a bit of a joke, but this is the biggest disservice. It's not having Urahara present, and this is the last chapter, right? This is the last chapter, and we didn't get Urahara. I made sure I went through the chapter multiple times, unless I missed a page altogether. Urahara isn't there, and how can I take that? It's definitely Kubo's fault when you consider pacing, but the thing is, the pacing for this chapter was really good. I very much enjoyed it. So whose fault is this? Well, cancellation and obviously Shonen Jump. And this is where I'm gonna lash out at Shonen Jump. Why didn't they give Bleach like 5 extra pages? Was it gonna like up their costs that much to just give it 5 extra pages? Probably, but does it matter? Well, Bleach has been their series for years, and seeing that kind of thing, if they had extra pages, I would have very much enjoyed it, but it didn't. So how should I feel about that? I wanted to see Urahara. He's a principal character. He was there since the beginning. Like, what the heck, right? I think the only time that Kubo could have actually put him in is if Ichigo's kid was snooping around his place instead of hanging out with Hiyori. That's the only moment I could have seen Urahara being able to be shoved into this particular chapter. And I think not having him is a giant disservice to the character, because he's the one that could have given some clarification. Heck, even if you had Urahara talking with Aizen, it would have been so kind of elucidating just to have them talk. But of course we didn't get that, and I think that is this chapter's major flaw. Urahara's a very important character, and to not have him in the final chapter, man, it sucks. It sucks. So I want to think it's Shonen Jump's fault, but I wish Kubo could have thought of some way to have Urahara in there, because chances are he's alive. Aizen's alive. The freaking Visored that died are alive. Like, what the heck, right? But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the chapter itself. Like I said, I want you guys to take this overall positive feeling that I do think this is the ending that Ichigo's family and friends deserved. I don't think it's the ending that Bleach deserved per se, but this chapter was very nicely done, and I like this ending chapter more than I liked Naruto's ending chapter. Let's not look at in terms of the circumstances surrounding this chapter, because then in that case Naruto is clearly better because it ended on its own terms. But let's just look at what this look into the future accomplished. This is a much more hopeful future than Naruto's future. Well, actually, with Ichigo's kid absorbing the remnants of Yuok's power, oh boy, his design looks pretty cool though. Rukia's kid, her design looks pretty cool. It's funny seeing how Rukia thinks her kid can just beat up anyone because it'll be fine. And Ichigo's design is overall cool. Ichigo ending up with Orihime is adorable. Oh my god, frick, good for him. Yeah, what else can I say? Overall, the chapter is good. Now, this is pretty much going to be the ending thoughts segment. Bleach. It was a fun series. You know, for all the series, I walk into it, I have different expectations according to what the series has shown. You know, for Fairy Tail has established rules on the way its universe works, on the way that Mashima writes. So I curb my expectations according to Fairy Tail. Boku no Hero has its own expectations. It has its own rules. I curb my expectations according to Boku no Hero. It is stupid to go into any series and to hold them up to the same standard as some godly series like Full Metal Alchemist. Like, are you crazy? That's not how that. No, that's gonna get you depressed rather than let you enjoy things. And overall, the thing I want to express is that enjoyment. I like being entertained, and that's why I kind of like making these videos. It's the entertainment. So I don't want anything to be ruining my entertainment. I don't want my conceptions of another series to come in and affect a series that I legitimately like. And so for Bleach, I always walked in with this expectation that, okay, it's Bleach. I'm probably, on a bad day, I'm going to read it in less than a minute. On a good day, I'm going to be pretty excited. And on another day, I was like, well, that's just pandering. And so, yeah, that was my Bleach experience. I had my expectations set to that kind of regard. And look, I don't want to offend anyone, but it's true. If you go looking at Bleach, and if you pick a random chapter after the first 100 chapters, like yesterday I looked at the chapter, I think it was 376 or something. If you look at those chapters and you were to count the amount of panels that are just white with maybe some words in them, you would be, no, there's a lot. Bleach does that a lot. Kubo spaces things out. He makes work man, the guy's good at skimping out on art. And it happens with backgrounds, but the biggest offenders are the completely black panels or the completely white panels. And that's Kubo right there. That's why you can read Bleach so quickly. Look, there's not that much dialogue in Bleach. God, no, there's not that much dialogue. You get a lot of dialogue when Mayuri comes in, but otherwise, there's not a lot of dialogue in Bleach. And that is a flaw in Bleach, because overall, it leads towards horrible pacing problems. The reason this chapter felt so nicely paced is because there's a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of dramatic buildup. There's just a lot of nice dialogue. Actually, is there? Man, I don't know. I'm tired. Regardless, Bleach, it has its problems, and because of that, people will always joke. In terms of other things that I went into expecting, or expectations I set for Bleach in itself, at one point I pretty much just got used to the fact that Bleach isn't about Ichigo anymore. It's about the Shinigami in general, and that's why you can go so long without Ichigo doing anything. But yeah, actually the biggest expectation setter that I had for Bleach was just, it's going to be short. The art's going to look really pretty, but it's going to be really short. And in the 1000 Year Blood War, it was more like, great, this is happening. We are now entering into territory where not having enough exposition is going to severely hurt us. And having a time frame, a constraint, is going to severely hurt us. And guys, I will say this, and this will be my opinion forever most likely until I get proof otherwise. I really do think that Shonen Jump gave Kubo the exact date that he was going to end Bleach the moment they told him he had to go into the final arc. I really do think there was no hope. This date of Bleach ending, 686, was set from the very beginning of that final arc. I really do think, and you can tell from that very beginning, when things weren't going Kubo's way, because we had that one color page with that one kid Shinigami and Ichigo. The moment things didn't go Kubo's way, he went back to his old habits, and things were just spiraled out of control from there. And if you look at the 1000 Year Blood War, you're going to see a lot of these missed opportunities. It started off really strong, but it just couldn't maintain itself. And whose fault is that? Well, that's just the way things roll out. Kubo, who knows, man? It sucks to see your series maybe not doing as well as it once did, and maybe him having anxiety attacks. It's a stressful life for a manga artist. So I really don't want to overall blame Kubo on the missteps. But in terms of praising Kubo, he was very good at foreshadowing, and I do think it's unfair that a lot of people don't usually notice that. But Kubo was very good at foreshadowing. Even the biggest thing is always going to be the fact that he wanted to go past the Aizen arc. Aizen was set up as this big villain, and it's ultimately coming back to something I mentioned before, execution. Kubo was always bad at execution of really important moments. Even the build up with Aizen was just way too big for the manga to take. And when that was finally over, Kubo wanted to keep going on with the story, but Aizen, being like the biggest penultimate villain, was taken out. And execution happens, and it affected the 1000 Years Blood War so much. It affected it with boy, now we have to count Chicken Lily. Man, who said that? I think it was another YouTuber. But Barrow. It affected the guy that looked like Colonel Sanders. It affected the Heart. It affected the Soul King. A lot of things just kind of had to fall away because of time constraints and pacing issues and just overall pressure. But I do want to just make sure people at least recognize that Kubo was particularly good at building up really interesting characters, because we had a lot of interesting characters in Bleach. And Mayuri will always be the one that I fall back on this. And Mayuri by far, outside of Ichigo's friend group, because they get conclusion, Mayuri's personal character ending is by far the one that you could really interpret to be the saddest, because his ending has a lot to do with what he cares about, or the one person he might have actually had serious feelings for. And I mean feelings of compassionate love. And the ending to his character arc is depressing. Well, the interpreted ending, the ending I'm interpreting to his character arc is depressing, but it's still one worthy of respect. And of course, it's Mayuri that gets the best ending in that regard. Okay, let's see other things that we can talk about. Chad's beating up humans. Good. Uryu is a hard ass at work, but he likes his friends. And Ichigo and Orihime are married. Anyway, peeps, it's been a fun ride, and you know, I don't think I was as negative as I could have been, but this is a 20-minute video. So guys, let's cut it out there. Let's stop. And yeah, if you guys want me to make a follow-up video to Bleach or something, let me know. There's so many things we will never know in Bleach, but that's okay, because at least Ichigo and his family are happy. So yeah, let's end it there, guys. Till next time, have a good day.